Okay, so we've got 13 people here now, and so thank you guys for being on time. And I know there's a lot of people who can't make the time who are watching recordings and stuff, and that's okay too, as long as people are watching recordings and doing the work. So that's okay. If you are planning on being on the webinars, please be on time just so you're not missing anything from the beginning. But for today, I've got slides this time, not just my big notes. So let me share my screen with y'all. Also cleaned up my desktop a little bit. It's kind of a disaster last week. Okay. So this week, last week was really a lot about just laying the foundation for how we're going to be doing the course and the point of the course, and to get you guys starting to really think about what really is important to you, what really matters to you, what could I really have, what could my life really look like what's really possible, and just to kind of break that up a little bit. We're going to continue down this road for this week and next week as well. But we'll circle back to that in a moment. So this week, though, which is also going to be next week, we're going to kind of be doing this in a two-part, through the two sessions. So it's all about aligning your created life with your time and with money. So everything that you want in your life is going to require your time, or it's going to require your money, and some things will require both. Like if you're going to take a vacation, that vacation is going to cost money, and you're going to be out of town for a week or whatever it is, or maybe a month or whatever. So we need to get your goals aligned with your time, aligned with your money. And we'll stop there. So we're going to pop over here. So the purpose of this course. So we're going to start with kind of reviewing week one, and then we're going to get into just reviewing some of the homework and what you guys got out of that. So we'll dig into that in a minute, but just want to kind of revisit the purpose of the course. So we covered this last week. So overview, I've got this down here. So the overview and purpose of the program is the results we're committed to is discovery of guiding principles for a high quality of life and high performance, to create a thriving business or career, to create a high quality of life, including your relationships with others, your relationship with yourself, peace of mind and power in your life, to live a created life. So to live the life that you want, that's important to you. And then also a side effect of going through this course is understanding how human beings work, better understanding yourself, better understanding others. As a result, you'll be a more effective coach and more effective leader to other people. So that's why we're here, and how we get this job done is we deliver the course through discovery. You being able to recite back to me the 4 rules of time management, for example, is great, but reciting it isn't the value. You don't want to have to remember this stuff. You want to be used by this stuff. And that's another term I'll use a little bit, is used by, because when you're used by something, you don't have to think about it. Like there's certain things we're all used by that we just, I run a painting business. I'm like used by being a painting contractor. If I'm on the golf course and I see houses that need painting, like I can't not see those. But there's a lot of you guys on here who if you're on a golf course or you're driving through a neighborhood, you don't notice all the houses that are peeling and fading. Like I'm used by being a painting contractor. That's just what I see as a result. And when you discover the 4 rules of time management, for example, you will be used by them as opposed to knowing them and trying to apply them. Knowing and trying to apply is tough work. When you're used by something, it's natural, it's easy. And so, one thing that would be really valuable is for you to continue discovering what it means to discover something. And when you discover something, it's like an aha moment. And some of the things, and we might have covered this a little last week, but it's so important we need to talk about it again. So how do I know I've discovered something? And one thing is, it's the experience of an aha moment. Like you're knocked back by it a little bit. Like, oh my gosh, like all of a sudden you'll be able to see a bunch of connections that you just didn't see before. Like a whole new world opens up as a result of discovering something. And all of a sudden, when we're talking about the 4 rules of time management, you might start to see like, oh my God, like that's why I do this, and that's why this is this way, and that's why I do this, and oh my gosh, like I can see it now. Like it's a discovery, like it hits you, knocks you back. All right, so that's how we're going to deliver the promise of the course, is your ability to discover this stuff as we go. So I know I saw some of you guys like group up with a couple other people. I'm not sure how those went. I'm not really facilitating a lot of that. I'm kind of leaving that up to you guys. But if you are in a group, great. If you're not in a group, I would really encourage you to pair up with one other person or two other people. And I recommend that for two reasons. One is we have a tendency to let ourselves down more than we'll let other people down. So if you tell yourself, like, I'm going to do this assignment between now and the next session, you're more likely to not do it if you're the only person you're accountable to. But if you have a call scheduled with your partner, you're way more likely to follow through with that call than if you just have a little block in your own schedule to do it. We're definitely more accountable to other people than we are to ourselves, which is a really challenging thing, but we'll get into that later. But accountability is going to be huge, just having a partner and having someone in it. So that's one reason I'd recommend pairing up or being in a group of three. The second reason is because the course is based on a discovery, when you can have a discussion about it with someone else, look, every single one of you is going to see something different or see something differently when I talk about it. You're going to have a different perspective than everyone else on here. Now, no one's is right or wrong. There's just another perspective. And the more you can fill in all the different perspectives, the more you have access to discovering something for yourself. You may not get a lot out of what you talk to me about, but then you might get on your group call and someone who's there in the trenches with you might articulate or share something with you that really connects with you. And that's where you have your aha moment. And that's where you have a discovery, is just by getting other points of view. And that's also why we're going to be doing, the sharing every week. And what did you get out of your homework last week? And what opened up about this? And what did you find about, implementing this? And, we really want to, as a group, be engaged in this question, the inquiry, and this discovery of what is it really going to take for me to have the life of my dreams and to have my life go the way I say it's going to go. So that's all I have about groups. The Facebook group is a really easy place to facilitate getting a group together. If you don't want to do it there, you can send me an email and I'll take care of getting some people put together and paired up. So that's all I have to say to kind of start that I wanted to review. And so now we just want to hear what you guys got out of the assignment and the work you did, or just what you discovered as a result of last week's session. So down here at the bottom are some questions that you can use to share. So one thing, and you guys will just raise your hand, I'll call on some people and we'll spend a little bit of time on this. What did you discover about personal training and development? Did you have any aha moment about how powerful this can be? What's possible when we invest in ourselves? Have you had an appropriate relationship to personal training and development? Have you been hungry for it? And are you hungry for it now? So that could be one thing that might have opened up for you that you could share about, is just creating this commitment for yourself to personal training and development. Because whatever results you're producing now are the results you're producing now, and they're a function of what you're capable of right now. So what moves us up is not time passing. What moves us up is how much more capable we become, and being more capable is a function of investing in your effectiveness. And we call that personal training and development. So our access to growing is personal training and development. And the people who are here today, it doesn't matter. Some of you, if we say like these are different levels through life. Some people are here, some are here, some are here, some are way up here. No matter where you are, what's going to move you forward the fastest is investing in your personal training and development. And no matter where you are, if you do invest your time and energy into that, you'll move yourself up really quickly. And you might not be where you want to be now, but if you invest in a personal training and development, eventually you'll meet that, and then you'll start to exceed it and go past it. And this stuff has an exponential factor. We talked about the compound effect last week a little bit. So that's one thing you could share about. Another thing could be, what did you discover about discovering and what that looks like? And what are some things that maybe you've discovered in the past, and going through this work, you're like, you really started to get a grasp on what the hell I'm talking about when I say you need to discover this for yourself. And then the last could be, there's actually one other, but what else did you get out of session 1 in the homework that will empower you to be highly effective in getting value out of the course? And one other thing I will add is, what did you get out of, I guess we'll call it like brainstorming or thinking about your goals and what you want to create? That was also a bit of a thing. So I'm going to pop back over and see whose hands are up, and we're just going to take some sharing, and I'm going to elaborate on some things, and we'll kind of see what opens up here. So who would like to share? Got to see some hands to do that. And don't be shy, because this is where the course gets done. Mason.
So when you talked about discovery last week, I I used it with my team because I felt like I was telling my production manager the same thing over and over again. And after your course, it prompted me to ask him the right questions, and he found his own solution, and it saved us a lot of time. And I've been using it with my team ever since. Instead of giving them the answer right away, I allow them to kind of work through it.
All right, great. So two things I want to comment on. One is that's incredibly powerful, man. Like that's been one of the biggest things that we've shifted as a company is coaching by discovery as opposed to giving people answers and answering questions and telling them what to do. Just like I said before, when you discover something, you're used by it now. So your production manager, that thing you kept telling him that wasn't working, once he discovered it for himself, it's his now. He owns that. You're not going to have to talk to him about that again. And so that's one really powerful thing about what he shared. The second thing, Mason, which is a follow-up question, is what can you see out of that would enable you to be more powerful in discovering for yourself?
Well, I've always been really passionate about improving myself. I like to listen to a lot of books. I think it just showed me the direct value. Sometimes I'll listen to a sales book on the way to an estimate and use something right then and there, and it helps me close that deal. And I think it just it reinforces me wanting to discover more is really what it does.
All right, great. And one thing I'll just highlight quick, and then we'll move on to the next person, so throw hands up. But, you mentioned that you go through and you'll read a sales book and then you'll try something that you learned at the estimate. That's a powerful way to discover something is by trying it on and seeing what happens. Like that's a discovery, like you're a scientist, you're experimenting, you're looking, you're testing, you're really discovering that and seeing what opens up out of that. So that'll be applicable in this course is try this stuff on. One of the biggest things we're going to talk about in the next couple of weeks is the 4 rules of time management. I talk to my team about this constantly, and it's amazing how much work it takes to get people to implement it, because I have a 100% success rate. When people implement it, they never go back. And so a big part of this course is to actually be coachable and take it all on, even if it doesn't necessarily mesh with you at first. All right, thanks, Mason, for kicking us off. So who else has something to share about what you got out of last week's session or out of doing the assignment or talking with your group? Yeah, Russell.
So I guess going through those exercises and everything and like looking at what it is that, we want in our lives and what's important to us, it just, I'm not sure if this is something that I got out of it per se, as much as just seeing, how many things that I do hope to have in my life and being able to have, command over and all the different aspects, and just, it seems almost overwhelming. It's like, yes, these are things I like to improve in my life, but trying to find the time to actually focus on them is, obviously one of those things that I hope to get out of the course, but almost seems overwhelming and almost like a monumental task.
All right, perfect. And, so if any of you guys feel that way, that's totally okay, because, I have a lot of goals and I have a lot of big goals, but my schedule isn't outrageous at all. Like it's a really nicely balanced schedule. Like I'll work 30 hours some week, 40 hours. Sometimes I'll work maybe 50 hours, but usually it's a really reasonable work, life. So that's that's the whole point of what we're going to get into next, Russell, is starting to see like, how does the rubber meet the road with all of those things you want and hope for? And not all of them are going to happen overnight. Like all this is going to take work. When we put in the work and follow the process, it naturally leads to those outcomes that we're after. That's great, man. And that's where I want people to be, is I want you guys to be getting in touch with like all those things you hope for and want for and are really after. So is there any, so who else, what you've gotten out of last week or this week? And it can be anything, guys. It doesn't need to be monumental. I just kind of want to get a sense of where people are at too. So I'm going to see some hands. Yeah, Jojo. Josephine? Oh no, Joe, I don't think you're going to be able to talk because the computer you're on thinks you have a headphone jacked in. That's why the sound doesn't work. So we'll have to find another solution for you. Josephine, you could write something in the chat though, real quick, and I'll take a look at that and share what's in there. So thanks for sharing there, Joe. Natalia.
Hola.
Hola.
Okay. So for me, this whole experience has really validated a lot of things that I've been thinking about or listening to in podcasts or reading about or searching for. And I'm really searching for how to apply what I already know in balanced ways. So I started to share with people the different aspects about discovering to discover, and really just deepening on the search of what do you want next for your life. And it's inspired me into creating the next steps that I want for my life, because I'm searching for that a little bit. So this is really like a guided direction. And then also wonderful to be able to be in a community where you can talk about these things without your head exploding and other people not understanding what you're talking about.
All right, great. And what was it that got validated that you were already kind of thinking?
Well, I listen to different tools of just growing and expanding to constantly. And so looking at the different aspects that we're going to be deepening into really has helped just in confirming. I love to create goals and then new goals. I think it's like a new moment in life to create goals. Every day is a new moment in life. But I haven't checked in with myself because I've been trying to learn. And so I feel a sense of like a little girl, you know, excited to open the different parts. I do also feel sometimes a little bit overwhelmed because you have to think about so many things, but I think that is the only place where we can really create a change.
Excellent. Okay, great. And then Stephanie. Thanks, Natalia.
I just, through our conversation, actually, we met with our group, and for me, it's self-imposed limitations, and I realized that I've let life experience, which are my experiences, but not necessarily a fact of life, but I've allowed those life experiences to limit my thinking or my discovering or my ability to really stop and open up space to discover more things. So I actually kind of looked at that after we had our conversation with the group, and so that's something I realized about myself, that I've let my life experiences kind of dictate my own limitations. So now I'm going to stop doing that.
Yeah, and by the way, Stephanie, you are not alone. That is a human thing. But when we can get our hands really wrapped around it and get some tools to identify those things, mostly all you need to do to remove those barriers is to identify them. They're just that's what we call those blind spots.
Right.
We'll definitely get into that, but I love that you're already seeing that, because I think that'll just break you up a little bit. We mostly go through life like life is a certain way.
Right.
But it's not.
Right. Because of this is my life, and it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways it can be. So really good. Okay, cool. Thanks, Stephanie. Glad you're in a group too. And then Jesse. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So I think what kind of stuck out to me the most was fomenting a crisis. I'm either really like thriving or surviving, and I've made some of my best life decisions during crisis. Like, oh, I have a half a day to like figure this out, and those decisions have been some of the truest, I feel like. And I'm really into like creating goals and self-improvement and personal development, and then they just sit there, and I never have the fire to make any of them happen. So instead of choosing to survive or thrive, I can be thriving, but make a crisis for myself. Like that was just a new way of thinking that I had never thought before.
That's interesting. I don't remember bringing that up. So was that something I brought up last week, or was that from one of our previous conversations about fomenting a crisis?
It actually might have been from, I was looking at the documents in the member.
Oh, you just got muted. Jesse, you got muted for some reason. Okay. Cool. So fomenting a crisis, I guess. Oh, you there, Jesse?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. I guess I think I got that from the members area on a past sheet. So sorry if I was cheating.
No, that's fine. No, it's great. We'll talk about that. But yeah, you're just ahead of the game. But that's really good stuff. And I think you're at the right spot. You know, it sounds like all of us have all these lofty goals and aspirations and things we want, but accomplishing them is a whole different story. You know, if it was easy to get the things we want in life, everybody would just be living a happy, cheery life. You know, but we don't have. There's not a lot of training out there that like pulls it all together to help you actually where does the rubber meet the road. Real quick, Josephine, one thing you could do is you could plug a headset into the computer and you should be able to have sound. And I guess you probably have sound. I'm not sure what's going on, but you might try a headset. That might work for you. Okay. So anybody else? Okay. All right, guys. So we're going to kind of dive into everything we've got today. We've got quite a bit of stuff that we have to cover, but don't be overwhelmed because we have 2 weeks to cover it and we have the rest of your life to work on it. Okay. So the goal of this is not that, you know, you're going to snap your fingers at the end of this course and everything's going to be perfect. You're going to have a process to follow that will be ever changing and ever improving. And that's the point. It doesn't matter where you are. And even when we get into goal setting, I'll share with you some of my goals and I will, I'll send out some examples too, but you can see how like my goal setting from 5 or 6 years ago compared to my goal setting today and like my businesses is very different. So I'm going to share some of my goals and you'll see some of yours, but don't worry about getting it right. Don't worry. Just worry about following the process that we're going to go through in this course and don't put pressure on yourself. All right. Have fun with this. This is, you know, about creating your life and it should be exciting and fun. And so don't get overwhelmed. Okay. If you feel yourself getting overwhelmed with anything we're going through, just reach out to me. Because if you're going through something, you could even hear in the comments, like there's a lot of, you know, common themes from what people said. So if you feel yourself getting overwhelmed or concerned or disempowered about anything at all, please let me know, whether it's through an email, a private message on Facebook, put it in the Facebook group so I can make like a quick little video to address that because you're definitely not alone. So with that being said, we're going to start to get into this a little bit. So there's 3 things we're going to cover today. Remember, it's about aligning your goals with your time and your money. So I'm going to start to show you guys what that looks like. And then we're going to spend 2 weeks actually putting it in place and making it happen. So first up, we've got just effective goal setting. So I heard about goal setting for years before I took it seriously. And all of you have probably heard about goal setting for a long, long time. I didn't take it really seriously until I saw this one speaker at a conference I went to with my company. They brought in this guest speaker, Jack Daly, and he's like a lunatic about his goals. But it showed me what powerful goal setting actually looks like. And it was just so inspiring, his talk, that's the thing that finally got me to start setting goals the right way. And so goal setting is one of these things that people don't really do effectively, which we're going to talk about that down here with why don't goals happen and why do they happen. So the reason we're starting with goal setting is this is the first step in the 4 rules of time management, which we're going to cover in a moment. But goal setting is one of the 4 rules. And we need that because that's our guiding light. You know, our ideal life, our ideal schedule, our created life is our goals. So we want to be planning our time to be consistent with that. So that's going to be a first step in the 4 rules of time management. So we're going to knock one of them off for you just with the goal setting. So when you're setting goals, this might sound a little funny, but you want to create the future, and you want to create from the future. So you're not creating from anything. So what that means is, one way we could create goals is we could stand from where we are right now and we could look forward. And doing it that way, you would be constrained by the constraints of today. So those would project outwards. What we want to do is we want to just throw everything out the window and just say, 1 year from today, this is what my life looks like. And so you want to actually picture yourself there in the future when you've fulfilled on some of these goals, and just paint the picture. Like literally imagine and wonder what my life can look like, or what would it look like if I was just totally knocking it out of the park in this area of my life. What would it look like? There I am on January 1st, and I'm looking back, and this is what I have to say about it. And I look around, and this is what my life looks like, and this is what I'm doing every day. And you paint the picture of the goal you're committed to from the future, and from nothing. Like, you can't throw all your caveats out the window and just create. Once we've created our goals, like out there in the future, then we're going to work them backwards and set milestones. Because we can't just say, hey, here's my goal for 1 year. Like if we're setting goals on January 1st for that year, we can't say, here's my goal for the year, and not have any checkpoints along the way. So we need to have checkpoints. And one of the 4 rules of time management is to plan your week every week from your goals. So that's going to naturally create a checkpoint every week for you with your goals. Because like I said, you're not going to get this perfect. And when we get into session 4 and 5, we're going to be talking about the guiding principles and like what's the glue that holds this together. Because when we make the perfect plan and we create the goals and we make the time and we get the finances in order and that's all mapped out, to think that we're going to execute it perfectly is crazy. And to think that we thought of everything is also crazy. So we need to get into some of the guiding principles of how are we going to tweak and tune and adjust on a weekly basis. But one aspect of these goals is we need to work backwards and we need to set milestones. Not all goals require that, but some certainly do, especially business goals. So once we get into goal setting, you guys want to be thinking about 1 year goals, because you don't want to set goals longer than a year, not like really in-depth goals, because so much changes in a year. You might be in a very different spot. You might have changed what's important to you and what you want. Life changes. So you don't want to spend too much time on the way we're doing this on like a 3-year goal. We want to look 1 year. So it's short enough time that we can hit the goal and not a lot is going to change. But you should be thinking about your bigger picture goals. Like one of my bigger picture goals is I want to, this is a financial goal, but like I want to save up a big fat nest egg of money that I can live off of. And it's a big number. And that's not a goal that's going to happen for me in the next year or two. It's probably going to be like 10 years out. But I know that that's kind of an overarching financial goal I have by the time I'm 40. And I know what I got to do this year to work towards that. One of the other things I think about when I'm setting goals is I think about what would give me the most options at the end of this year. I want to make sure that at the end of the year, I'm not too locked into anything, but I've actually got a lot of options, because those things are going to change. Okay, so that's just like a few little things about setting your goals and creating, and we'll get into more about it. But this is, I think, an important one. So as you're starting to create your goals, this should be super exciting to you. And so make sure you're thinking big enough that your goals, like when you really get tuned in to this future you're creating, it should light you up. It should get you super excited. It should move you into action. You should, if you're setting goals that are big and exciting and worth fighting for, you're way more likely to get in action and make shit happen. And you might not fulfill those bigger goals, but if you're not setting things that are worth fighting for, like what's the point? All right, so make sure as you guys are thinking, you're not constraining yourself. Think big, think anything, make sure you're excited and inspired and have fun with it. One of my goals that like gets me really excited is I want to buy a Tesla. Josephine and I had our honeymoon. We did a road trip around Colorado and we rented a Tesla and we stayed at a bunch of sweet spots, and driving a Tesla around for a week, like I'm totally hooked and I absolutely want to buy a Tesla. So I built my dream Tesla. I know all the specs. I know exactly how much it costs. I know exactly how much I need. I've got it all mapped out. And I'm like super, super excited to buy my Tesla. Like that's something that makes me want to work. So you should have goals that are really exciting to you and really inspire you. Because if you don't think big, you don't really have a chance. If you set your goals right here, one of the things to answer these bottom questions, one of the things that gets in the way of goals happening, one of the reasons why goals don't happen is people don't take the actions to hit the goal. So if you set your goal right here and then you do a lot of thinking around all the actions you need to take to have that goal happen, then if you fall short at all, you'll fall short of that goal. But this is kind of your max, because hitting goals is not like an easy thing to do. Like we said, if it's easy, everyone would be doing it all the time. So you want to make sure to set bigger goals so you have bigger thinking. And if you fall short, that's fine. It's like the stupid saying, like aim for the stars to land on the moon. That whole idea, like there's some reality to that, to set yourself up big, because big things motivate you more. And even if you fall short of that, you'll fall above this lower goal. So make sure you guys are thinking big. And just because you think big, some things that you think really big for aren't going to happen this year, and that's okay. But you can put that on the side for like, hey, this is a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year goal that I'm aiming towards. So you want to have a lot of fun with this and just brainstorm and just let it flow and just imagine and really create your life. Not like, hey, this is what I don't like about my life, so I want to fix that. It's like, no, wipe all that away and just create it from nothing. So I want to hear from some of you guys. The easiest way to do this would be to do it in the chat, so we don't have to raise hands and do that. So I want you guys to write down in the chat, and we're going to discover a little bit about why don't goals happen? Why don't they happen? And then we're going to talk about why do goals happen? So we can start to discover what gets in the way of having what you say is going to happen, so that when you can discover this, you will naturally be more effective at setting your goals, which is what we're going to be starting to do over the next week. So in the chat, why don't goals happen? We don't make an actual plan of action to reach the goal. Absolutely, Russell. And I would just take that one step further to say we don't make a sufficient plan of action. Yeah, actual kind of works too. But yeah, there's not a good enough plan. So Russell, I have a follow-up to that. Yeah, we don't actually devote the time it takes to reach the goal. That can be part of it. Russell, a follow-up for you would be we don't make an actual plan of action to reach the goal. I forgot my follow-up question. Not enough action, no consistency, a lack of discipline. We don't actually devote the time it takes to reach the goal. Oh, Russell, my follow-up was, why do you think we don't make an actual plan of action to reach the goal? Why don't we? Like, you knew the answer right there, so why don't we do that? Dario said not enough action, no consistency. So Dario, my question to that would be, why not? Like, what's happening that there's not enough action? Why is there not enough action? Why is there not consistency? Lack of discipline. We want to dig a little deeper on that. What do we mean lack of discipline? We don't actually devote the time it takes to reach the goal. Analysis paralysis. So Kyle, what does that mean to you, analysis paralysis? Your goals are not realistic. So for sure, if you come out and you're making 30 grand a year, you're not going to set a goal for $1 million a year. So your goals do need to be in reality. Excuses, for sure, excuses will get in your way. We'll get to that in session 5. Getting caught up in the daily business of life, that is solved with the 4 rules of time management. Letting outside forces get in the way, getting sidetracked for years, that happens. Getting so overwhelmed with details, you don't make moves. So any other reasons you guys see for yourself, like not the smart answers, but for yourself, like what has gotten in your way of hitting your goals? And over the course of the next several sessions, you'll start to see what the different systems you've been missing. As I look through all these answers, a lot of this is going to be covered in the next session and then the 2 sessions after that. All right, that's going to be a really good plan and then the glue that holds the plan together. So we don't act due to lack of planning, not a solid plan to follow through. So what this is all really coming down to is there's either not a good enough plan or there's not action consistent with the plan. So if we look at Russell, we don't make an actual plan of action to reach the goal. So Russell, again, my follow-up question to that is, why don't we? Like, what gets in the way of it? Or why do we fall short of that? Dario said not enough action or no consistency. That's a function of not planning good enough goals or not having the glue to hold it together. A lack of discipline is an integrity thing. We don't devote the time it takes. That's not planning the goal sufficiently, or it's not executing the goal. Analysis paralysis is just not doing anything. Paralysis is not doing anything. Not realistic, that's just poor goal setting. Excuses, that's basically, excuses are made when you don't take action. So that's action. Getting caught up in the daily business of life is not taking the action. Letting outside forces get in the way, which is going to be covered in session 5. Getting sidetracked for years, getting so overwhelmed with details. So we want to start to look at what do we need to do to have your goals happen? So I want to see that in the chat now. So now we're talking about what needs to be there for your goals to happen. Stephanie says, make them a priority. Love to hear from as many of you as we can. You want to discover this for yourself. Why do your goals not happen? And I'm not talking, maybe you're very good at having goals happen in this area of your life, but not this area. Okay, well, you could look at why do your goals happen over here, but they don't happen over here. Whatever you're doing here works, but over here it doesn't work. A system or a structure to achieve them, strong desire, spend the time to get it all down and manageable, realistic, simple to achieve steps. So all of the answers being present to your whys, accountability, these are all great. So just in the interest of time, we're going to get right to the answer here. Everyone who's written something in can fall into one of two categories, basically. It comes down to making a good enough plan. I'm sorry, there's going to be 3 things. One is setting goals that really fucking inspire you. Goals that really matter to you. And we'll talk more about this goal setting before we end today with your assignment and what you're going to be working on over the next week. That's the why. That's the strong desire. That's the being present to your whys. That's the feeling pleasure and achievement. That's the making them a priority. Okay, great. So one is we want to set goals that really, really inspire you and are worth fighting for. Number 2, we need to have a good enough, not a good enough, we need a sufficient, a complete plan. Now, I just had a wedding recently, and we planned that wedding for like 2 months. It was a 3-day event. It was a 3-day event, and it took us months to plan it. Your life is all of life. So my guess is that nobody here has ever taken the appropriate amount of time to really think about what is it going to really take for me to hit this goal. You don't go deep enough. You're too quick to get the right answer and be like, check that box, set my goals, move on to the next thing. Because you're busy, and who has time to sit back and plan your goals for hours on end? I'm already setting my goals for 2019. This is a work in progress. I set goals for the year, and then I have goals every few months. I take a lot of time to plan out my goals and how are they going to happen. Because if you don't take the time up front, it's going to cost you on the back end. So you might ask yourself, like, why haven't I taken more time to map out my goals? So why do you think you haven't? Why is your plan not good enough? You know, if you were going to go on a trip you would map out your trip before you go. Or if you're going to do a 7-day hike, you're going to map out that 7-day hike in detail. So you know you're going to go here, then to here, then to here, and you're going to take a bunch of time to plan that out. But we don't do that for our life. But our life matters as much or more than all those things do. So mostly we don't take the time to really plan and map out what is it going to take for me to fulfill my goals. So 1, creating goals that really fucking inspire you and matter to you. 2, that are worth fighting for. 2, taking the time to really map it out. How am I going to hit this goal? And now that I've mapped it all out, I ask myself, if I follow that plan perfectly, can I guarantee I'm going to hit that goal? And if you can't guarantee it, then your plan isn't good enough. So you've got to take that seriously. And then the third one that gets covered is a lack of execution. So not following the plan, not checking in on your goals and your plan. So if you set your goals on January 1 and then check them again at the end of the year, probably not a good shot at hitting your goals then. So that refers to the accountability and simple achievable steps. And we've kind of covered everything there. So we can get really simple with those 3 things. And that's all we're going to be focused on for the next 2 weeks. Okay. You have 2 weeks to get this really, really dialed in. All right. So that's going to be goal setting. So now we're going to get into what are the 3 steps, just so we can make this really simple. Okay. So these are going to be your 3 steps. This will get sent out with the homework. I encourage taking notes, but you don't need to take the notes. So here's how we're going to set our goals. We're going to break our goals up into every area of our life. So there's only 3 steps to setting your goals. The first step is to write down every area of life that you have a goal in at all. So just to give you an idea of areas of life, so I have some goals to share with you guys. So National Painting Group, one of my businesses, I certainly have goals there. Painting Business Pro, another business, certainly have goals there. Painter Choice, another business, certainly have goals there. Painting, Pole Body Fusion, that's a business, certainly goals there. My finances, travel, recreation, leisure, health, personal training and development, wifey and home life. I have some other random or personal goals that like I didn't have a good place for. And then friends, family, and relationships. Okay, so those are some areas. Some other areas can be, I know Josephine, like one of her areas is being pregnant. Like what does she want being pregnant to look like? What does she want her work to look like when she's going through pregnancy? What are the things she wants to do? What's her lifestyle want to look like? So that could be one. Your kids and your relationship with your kids, religion or spirituality, your sex life, trying to think of some more. We all have business, we all have finance, we all have health, we all have work or career, travel, fun, social. If some of you might like compete in like bodybuilding, or you might compete in some other hobby you have. So that would be an area of life. So you're going to write down, step 1 is to write down all the areas of life that are really important to you. That's it, just a big list of them. And it's best to do it in like a Word document, so you can always go back and add stuff if you forget. If you write it on paper, you might fill up this page and then need to add a bunch more stuff in. So that's step 1. That's the easy part. All right. So step 2 is where we're going to really get clear about what is our commitment. So this is the get you fucking inspired part. Okay. So what is your commitment? What are your like measures or milestones? So for some goals, for me, for health, I don't have clear like milestones. Like I'm not trying to be able to bench this, then bench this, then bench this. Like that's not what's important to me with my health. My health, I just want to live a long and healthy life. I want to take care of my body. I want to be fit. I want to eat healthy. I want to look good. I want to feel good. I want to have good energy. That's really my commitment to my health. I don't have measures for that one, but certainly for my business, I have measures. So if I look over at my business, so this is an example of not getting overwhelmed, because you guys got to remember that this business we're in like our 8th year and it's about a $10 million business. So this is going to be a much more detailed goal setting sheet than anyone else will probably have. And I can show you how simple it used to be. But this is an example of how we track all of our business goals. So we have our budget here. We have You see that'll load. So we have our budget, mapping out all of our numbers. So like our revenue numbers, our production numbers, our gross profit, all of our overhead expenses. We have our sales plan. We have a really detailed sales plan, knowing what we did every week, what we need to do every week. We have a detailed production plan. So this is what we need to the houses we need to paint every week and how we're doing on that. We have job cost cards. This is tracking our profitability on every job. This is an example of a really, really detailed like map for how we're going to hit the goal. We can't go out and our business will grow from like 5 million to about 8 or 9 million this year. And this is one of 5 companies. We couldn't grow that significantly without a really good plan. So for some areas like that, you definitely would have milestones, right? So in business, you'd have milestones. I need to be here by this time, here by this time, here by this time. The most important part of this step 2 is to paint a clear picture of the future. You want to be able to taste it. You want to be able to smell it, taste it, feel it, experience it, see it. Like you close your eyes and picture it. You want to get some of you guys have heard of visualization, and you could say like that's a part of this is visualization. Some of you have watched The Secret, and The Secret is not about just wishing things into reality, but there is something about being really focused on what are your goals. On my goals sheet, when I first made this, I didn't even have my commitments and my whys on there because I'm so tuned into my whys. I'm so clear about my whys and why I'm doing what I'm doing and everything that I do. So you want to make sure that you're painting a really clear picture of the future. This is the most important part. This is what's going to get you excited. And there's some brain science where we'll get to this in like session 8, but we're going to talk about the power of context and we'll get into the brain science of why that matters. But it's important to know that the future that you're living into, the future that's out there in front of you, is one of the most powerful contexts that we can have. It creates a context, and later this will make sense. But when you get really in touch with the future you're committed to and you paint the picture and you can taste it and see it and experience it, and you can just you can explain it to me as if it's what things look like right now. Like you're just that clear about it. It actually changes your brain a little bit. It'll actually change how your brain sees and makes sense of life. It'll change how your brain perceives the things in front of you and will reorganize your brain to fulfill the future that's out in front of you, only if it is truly inspiring to you and moves you and gets you lit up and you can taste it and see it. Just that's going to be really, really important. That's one reason it's important. The second reason this is so important is because you can't make a sufficient plan of action if your goal is not articulated well enough. So that's step 2. So first we write out all our areas of life. Then we're going to paint the picture. And this can look a lot of ways. For business, it might just be a bunch of numbers, revenue here, this here. But then you also want to think about the why. Like, why does that revenue matter? Why does that profit matter? Why do those sales numbers matter? So you want to get clear on that. Then there's other areas like your health that maybe you'll write a paragraph. There's other areas like your relationship with your significant other. You might write a paragraph about that. You might write, a whole page about painting the picture of your family life in the future and what you want your life to look like with your kids and your significant other and, your wife or husband. So there's no right way to do this. It just needs to be consistent with what you want. And it needs to be clear enough that you can taste it and see it. And it's just, that's how it would look. Okay. So that's going to be the second step. And that's the step that's like a lot of fun, or it should be a lot of fun. You just get to dream. All right. Anything goes. Then we have step 3. So this is going to be your actions. Now, in general, there are 2 kinds of actions we need to take to fulfill our goals. We have recurring actions. These are the things that need to happen consistently. Maybe it's every day, maybe it's every week, maybe it's every month, or maybe it's just like once a year. What are the actions I need to take for me to fulfill my goals? And so a recurring action, an easy example is in the world of finances. Okay, so for me, Recurring action is I update my budget every Sunday or by Sunday. Sometimes I'll do it on Friday, sometimes Thursday, sometimes Saturday, but I update my budget every week by Sunday. That's a recurring action in the area of my finances. A one-time action or one-time project would be making my budget. I make my budget for the year one time, and then I update it every week. So you want to think about it like your recurring actions, the things that need to happen every week, should take up about 40 to 60% of your schedule. Because one-time projects and one-time actions are the things that really move the needle. So I look at it like my recurring actions are the things that just keep everything afloat. So in my painting companies, it's my one-on-one meetings weekly, the webinars I run weekly, the group calls I run monthly, and the group one-on-ones I run with my partners monthly, and running payroll every 2 weeks. And you'll see that in my example of my goals. Those are the recurring actions. I just need to do those. And if I just do those, everything's good. If I could even miss those for a week or two and it would be fine. But those are my recurring actions. But that's not what moves the business forward significantly. What moves the business forward is projects like causing a breakthrough in our marketing such that we can generate 100 estimates a week from our marketing mix. Or I've got a whole list of them here. We've got planning our year-end trip, creating team building skill breakdowns and SOPs, building a custom CRM, organizing year-end financials, planning our 2019 planning and creation with our teams. So those are one-time projects that happen one time, but they're really important to the fulfillment of my goals. So you're going to write down all the actions you need to take. What do you need to do? What do you need to physically do? What would go in your schedule? What would you do to have this happen? If it's an area of life that you need milestones or measures, make a little bit of a plan. So if you're trying to bench 200 pounds and right now you bench 140 pounds, then you want to make some milestones along the way. In business, your sales goals, ours are broken down weekly throughout the entire year. So if they require measures and milestones, include those here, and then we get into the actions. This is the work part. This is the part that people drop the ball on the most. You need to be thorough with this. And the thing that's useful is to take it one area at a time. So some of you guys mentioned like the overwhelm when you start thinking about all of your goals and all these things you need to do and it just gets overwhelming. Don't worry about that. Just look at one area at a time. And it might be easier than you think. And then what we're going to do once we've got this done, the next step is going to be to plan an example week. So you're going to plan an ideal week. And you're going to see, once you're done with this whole goal setting thing and you've done every area, every commitment, and every action, so it's going to be work. It's going to take time. Getting anything you want out of life takes time. It takes work. When you go through it, though, you'll get to the end, and then you're going to take all of the actions and you're going to plug them into a calendar. So all those recurring actions for every area of life, you're going to put those in your calendar. And once those are all in your calendar, you're going to know if it all fits or not. And if it doesn't fit, then we can go back and say, okay, well, I'm not going to do that for now. And we're going to get into, in a couple sessions, we're going to talk about how to free up your time. Because the reality is you don't have time to fulfill all your goals. You don't have time. But you can create more time. And we're going to talk about how to be efficient with creating more time. So we'll get into that later. But for now, we need to map out our goals, get them really clear, plan out all the actions, put them in a calendar, see what works. And again, you're aiming for like 40 to 60% of your schedule to be recurring. And then the rest is one-time projects, because that's what's really going to move the business forward. Or, whatever else you might be at work on. And you're going to do this for all the areas of your life. This is going to be your one assignment for the next week. And you probably want to plan a few different times to do it. I wouldn't try to do it all in one go. I would do it and then let it simmer for a couple of days, and then take a look at it again and let it simmer and take a look at it one more time or something like that. You don't want to take this lightly. If you don't do this part effectively, you're pretty much screwed when it comes to actually hitting your goals. As you're doing this, if you have questions, reach out to me. If you're stuck on anything, reach out to me. Just use me as a resource. I'm happy to help. I want to make this course as powerful as I possibly can. So your feedback is invaluable. All right, so I'm going to show you guys some of my example quick, and then we're going to move into the 2 other topics that we're just going to introduce today and hit home a little more next week. So National Painting Group. So this is not complete, but I want to put it together real quick. I kind of, like I said, I didn't even put my commitments on here because they're really clear for me. So I just went right into my actions and stuff. But one thing is, as I wrote these down, what I discovered is there's an opportunity for me to get a lot more clear about painting the picture of what's really important to me in all these areas of life. They fade. You've got to keep that alive for yourself. That's why we plan our week every week with our goals, which we'll get to in time management in a second. So National Painting Group, I want to create a thriving company with significant growth, tons of opportunities for our team and employees to grow in their career and life. I want to take over the painting industry. I want to create powerful leaders and powerful business people, and I want to make people in my team millionaires. Here's my tracking example. This is my recurring projects. This is what goes in my calendar every week. These are all the one-time projects we're working on. This is another one of my goals, is just, to have Foothills do this, these other companies do these numbers. I need to get my business partners competent to run and build teams really effectively. So I need to do these things. I want to be prepared for 2019 to hit these numbers. I want to hit 17 million next year. So I'm setting everything up so we can do that next year. And I'll send you guys this document so you can look at it and use it. And I'm actually going to try to improve it a little bit too for you. And then I've got Painting Business Pro, and I've got all that mapped out. I've got Painter Choice mapped out. So these are all businesses. So they're all going to be similar to businesses. Finances. So in the goal of finances, you got to see what's important to you. But basically for me, I want to get everything I want. I want to build a significant nest egg. I want to put systems in place for strategic wealth building and wealth management. I want to be debt free. All my taxes are paid for this year and last year. So I'm going to next year with all taxes paid. I want to have plenty of money in all our business accounts. I want to buy my Tesla. I want to travel. I want to afford all my living expenses and everything I want. I want to cut down on my living expenses a little bit. And so my actions for this is to update my budget every week. I've already made it. Sign up for my Wealth Factory course that I'm going to be doing for wealth management. Pay off my debt, and then invest where I want to. So all of this really boils down to a pretty simple set of actions for finances. Most importantly with finances, I got to make the money. That's all up here in my business goals. All right, so travel, recreation, leisure. So I want to live a bucket list life. I always want to experience new and amazing things and do things I love to do. So this is some of the travel I'm going to be doing this year. I want to get in a soccer league. I want to play golf like crazy. I want to fish a couple times with my buddies. I'm going to play a ton of fantasy football and bet with all my friends. And I run a really fun sports week with all my buddies every year where we just play sports for a few days. And I could keep going, but I won't for now for the interest of time. So you guys will have this, but that can start to give you an idea of what it looks like. And then this is what I use to plan my week every week. And it's pretty simple. Okay, so that's going to kind of cover goal setting. I want to introduce you guys to the next 2 steps just as an introduction. Some of you guys might be overachievers who want to start to get into this, but I want to show you kind of what's coming and where we're going to align your time and your money together. So we're going to take a look at the 4 rules of time management document, but first I want to say a few things about time management. So I've got them here. And then I'm going to go, let me actually take a look here. Okay, so you're going to get this document too with the email I'll send out today. So time management is the most important thing to a person's success. Without having an effective time management system, you will never be as efficient as you could be. You will never be able to produce the results you are truly capable of. 4 rules of time management are all you need to be a master of your time. I've seen this hundreds of times. Also, you can forget about being a person of integrity without following the 4 rules of time management. Integrity is about having what you say is going to happen. And if you don't have a reliable system for putting your word in existence, you're not going to be a person of integrity, and you're going to find out how detrimental that really is. When you follow, so these 4 rules empower us to live our values. When you follow the 4, so this is a company document, so our values are all aligned around this. When you follow the 4 rules of time management, you will experience more power, more peace of mind, and a higher quality of life. And I've seen it every single time. So here are the 4 rules. I'm going to cover the one we've already covered first, which is create a goals sheet. And you're going to use that goals sheet to plan your week. The whole point of this system is to have the life you want, to have it all. In order to have it all, you can't just get lucky. You need to be intentional. That starts with getting clear what having it all would look like for you. And then we've got some more information here about how to set some goals. All right. Another thing we're going to do is we're going to plan our week every week by Sunday. So your entire week is going to be planned by Sunday. Before your head hits the pillow on Sunday night, your next week will be planned completely. And how it's going to be planned is with your goals. And you're going to take a lot of time to plan these goals, because these goals are how you're going to plan every week, and how you do every week and every day is how you're going to get to those goals. The next rule is that every night you're going to review your day and you're going to plan your next day. So as the week goes, it's not going to go to plan, and every day there's going to be things that don't get done. And if you don't review your day, then some of those things are just going to get left behind. So every day you review your day and you're like, got that done. Oh, that didn't get done. And I promised that guy I would get that done by today. So I'm going to move it to tomorrow or Thursday or Saturday. And I'm going to message him like, hey, I'm sorry I didn't get this done. I'll get it to you by Thursday. Does that work? And you manage your integrity, and everything is planned. One of the results people have out of really getting these 4 rules of time management down is they feel like they have a lot more time. They feel like they have a lot more time. They have a lot more peace of mind. They have a much lower stress level. This is like this. If there's one thing you get out of this entire course, and it's just goal setting and time management, you're good. So don't take this lightly. The 4th rule. So now we've pretty much got everything dialed in. We've got our goals. We've taken a lot of time to map out what actions need to happen. Every week we're planning those in. Every day we're checking ourselves throughout the week. And then one more rule is you need to write everything down. Things are going to come up. You're going to tell someone on the phone like, yeah, I'll do that for you. And if you don't write it down and put it in your schedule, you have to remember it. And if you have to remember it, you're going to forget some things, and you have to run around remembering shit all day. I don't have to remember anything because everything is written down, and that's why it feels like I have so much time, because I'm only ever doing one thing at a time and I have nothing going on in my head. So writing everything down, this includes things you say you'll do, things you know you need to do, like you're driving down the road and you're like, oh shit, I forgot I have to do that thing. Things you want to do, things you remembered you should do, things you might possibly maybe want to do. If you don't write it down, you won't have the opportunity to do it. And just because you write it down doesn't mean that you have to do it. But if you just write everything down and put it into your calendar, it gives you the opportunity to do it. All right. And I have some things that have been on my calendar for 6 weeks, and then I just delete it. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. That was an idea I had, not interested anymore. It's not getting done. It's not going to get done. I'm not going to do it. So those are going to be your 4 rules of time management. Now we're going to go into this in a little bit more detail next week. Here's some other strategies for planning that you guys can kind of go through. But I want to make sure we've got some time to talk about goal setting before we end today. So that's going to be time management, and you'll have this as an introduction. And next week, we're going to do 3 things next week. One is we're going to look at your guys' goals, and we're going to provide a lot of feedback so that the next week you can fine tune them. Then we're going to go into more detail about the time management, and we're going to go into a little more detail about the financial planning. And we're just going to start to answer questions. And so as this progresses, your guys' participation is going to be more and more and more important as we start taking these actions and actually implementing this stuff. Okay. So I just want to, I think we'll take questions at the end, but let's move on to finances. So again, 4 rules for time management, that's it. So now we want to review how we can manage our financials. So as you're making your goals, once they are complete, we need to make a little note when you're making your goals on things that are going to cost you money. So when you make your travel goals, let's see. So, okay, so here's travel. All right. So I've got a trip to Baldface Lodge. So it's a really sick place up in Canada. It's all like cat skiing, and you have to helicopter in, and it's incredible. That costs money. A company trip with the team costs money. This being a leader course I'm going to go to costs money. You know, golf trip to the weekend with the guys costs money. You know, my golf costs money. My Tesla is going to cost money. So all of these things that are going to cost me money, I need to make notes of that, because if I do all the actions but I don't have the money to afford the trip, I'm shit out of luck. So I need to know how much money would I need to make to have all these goals happen? What's our dream life going to cost? Because what do we need to make? Review through all your goals, which require money, how much do they require? What are some of your other financial goals? Maybe you want to pay off debt. Maybe you want to invest a certain amount of money. Maybe you want to travel. Maybe you want to save for kids' college. Maybe you want to save for buying a house. Maybe you want to buy a house. Maybe you want to buy a car. Maybe you have a wedding or a big event. Maybe you have, and then you have your month-to-month living costs. Once you determine how much you need to make to hit all of your goals, you can prioritize which money you will spend first. So for me, that's my monthly living expenses. That's the first thing that I'm going to spend all my money on. I need to just live. And then the next thing I'm going to do is this. And the next thing is this. And then if I really knock it out of the park, I'll buy my Tesla, I'll invest this, I'll do this. So I kind of put these things in order. And so I know what I'm fighting for. Like if I can push myself a little harder, I can get that Tesla. And if I push myself even a little more, I can get that next thing. And if I push myself a little more, I can get that next thing. And if things don't go perfectly to plan and I don't get the Tesla, I'll survive another year or 10 years or a lifetime if I never get a Tesla. All right, so you can prioritize which money you'll spend first. Then some of your goals become rewards for succeeding in your business and your work. If you're not hitting business goals, you know what you're not going to get as a result of that. So there's no surprises here. You'll know what your business goals need to be in order for you to hit all your other goals. So it'll make it more intentional when you're setting your business goals. So this is how all of your life ties together and why it's so important we take all this time, because everything is tied together. Let's see here. Okay, so we're going to look over the budget form in a second. This is what I've been using for like 4 or 5 years. I can tell you every penny I've spent for the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm going to show you how I manage finances in a really simple way. The 2 basic actions with your financial goals, like I said, is one of them is going to be how to create your budget. So in the next 2 weeks, we're going to do that. You're going to create your budget. And then the second action is a recurring action, which is to update your budget every week. It takes me no more than about 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes a week, and I know everything about my finances. Any other actions that you would plan in would be, on this day I'm paying off the credit card, on this day I'm paying off this debt, on this day I'm going to put money in savings, on this day I'm going to book my flights, etc. Okay, so before I show you guys the budget, I think it's important to note that this is a budget that is different, very different way of doing a budget than most of the world does budgets. Most of the world does a budget like, this is how much money I have to spend, and so here's all the stuff I have to cut out. It's a budget, it's confining, it's scarcity. This budget is more about creating my life and making it all happen. So I'm more interested in getting really clear what I want, figuring out what money I have to make, and then working on making that money, as opposed to my income is fixed, so that therefore my lifestyle will be fixed. It's like, no, this is the lifestyle I'm absolutely committed to, and this is how much money I need to make it happen, and so I'm going to fight to make that happen. And if you fall short, that's okay, because again, if you follow this process every year, every action, you're just going to get better and better and better, and eventually you'll hit that goal, and then you set a bigger one, and bigger, and it just has that exponential compounding effect. So it's a little different of a budget. So here's our blank budget. You'll all get a copy of this. I'm going to show you kind of how it works, and I'm going to send you guys a video also outlining how this budget works. So this top section here is going to be your monthly budget. Okay, so these are all your monthly expenses. So you might have rent, you might have a cell phone, you might have a cable bill, you might have whatever, most of you probably have a gas or car payment, most of you spend money on food. And then you're going to have miscellaneous costs that don't get their own category, but it's just the stuff here and there. You might have health insurance, but you've got whatever you spend every month. So think of all these open cells are for monthly bills, basically. And so you'll put your rent in there, and then you'll say, well, my rent's $750 a month, and cell phone you'll put in there, and you say that's $150 a month, and you'll put all these in. You're like, gas, I spend $100 a month. Food, I need like, I don't know, $700 a month. You know, miscellaneous, I need $1,000 a month or $250 a month, whatever it is for you. And this is going to total up how much money you need a month for living. And then it's going to take that number, multiply it by 12 months, and it's going to put your budgeted number right here. So your monthly living expenses this year is going to be $23,400. And then you're going to go back to your goals and you're going to say, okay, cool. So then what are all my other expenses? Well, my most important thing besides my living expenses is to pay off my debt. And I have $7,000 in credit card debt. And then my next most important goal to me is I want to take that family trip. And that trip, I've already priced it out. It's going to be $6,500 for that family trip. And then I want, and again, and you'll just keep going down and you'll add all these things in. You'll see how much it's going to cost. So this is the making of our budget. And so we're going to know, here's all the things I want. Here's the cost of all of them. This is what I need to make to hit all of those goals. And if I make, 6,500 less, then we won't do the family trip. So that's going to be how we make the initial budget. So that's the step one, creating your one-time project, creating your budget. Step two is updating the budget every week. So here's how we do that. So I open my bank account. I have two personal accounts. I have my checking account and I have my credit card. So I open both accounts. And then I just start looking at all the transactions since the last time I did an update. So I'll find and be like, oh, that was the last thing I put in. That was $27.34 to the gym. So then the next transaction I'm going to put in this budget. So if it was rent, I would put that right here. If it was my cell phone, I put it right here. If it was gas or food or miscellaneous, that's going to be a lot. There's going to be a bunch of gas charges, a bunch of food charges, a bunch of miscellaneous charges. So those are updated down here. So here's January food. Every time I spend money on food, I put it right here. All right. Every time I spend money on gas, I put it right here. And every time I buy something that's miscellaneous, so for me, it'd be like golf or, as a cart, maybe you had brake pads or whatever for your car that you didn't expect. So miscellaneous expenses. And what it's going to do is it's going to total them up and plug them into here for you. And so this will tell you what you've actually spent on monthly expenses. And there it is. There's my actual. That's what I've got left. That's my actual. This is what I've spent. That's what my budget was. So I can know how I'm doing with all those things. So it's either going to be, every single charge is going to be one of these, or it's going to be one of these. So if it's one of these things, like a vacation, so this is a vacation you're taking for $5,000. So this is going to be vacation. And then every time, maybe you book your flights and it's $570, and then you book your hotel and it's $1,500, and then you pull up in your account and all the money you spent on that trip is going to be put in here. And you'll see every time I add a number here, it changes this number over here. So I can see, was I on budget with that trip, on budget with this thing and that thing. And then number 2 is here. Number 3 is here. And this is all set up. So this is how we're going to plan and then track our goals financially. Okay. So that's it for now on all this stuff. And again, I'll send you this and this and this. And I want to open it up to questions about anything we've covered so far, or questions or comments, just to get a pulse check on how you guys are doing and what you're seeing and questions you have, what opportunities you see. Help me out here. Hope you guys didn't check out. That was a lot of talking, a lot of information. Let me see some hands, guys. I'm going to start calling on people too. Jesse, would you mind popping on and saying a little bit more about that on the mic?
Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, because I think it's the root cause of like not following through is the commitment, really. So to have that there, and when you plan, like I plan my day. I'm not planning my week how I should be in advance, but I think to even like to what you've covered here today, to have the commitment there as well, like just to like the constant reminder of why are you even doing what you're doing, because you can just get in the weeds of like work,
Totally, man. Totally. Look, and that doesn't ever go away. Like the losing touch with what everything you're doing right now is for a purpose. When you started out, you had some dreams, some ambition about something. You just lost touch with it, and then you get into the daily grind. So for me, like even before this webinar, I keep reminding myself about it. I told you guys I hurt my back earlier this week, and I felt like shit yesterday. And yesterday is my big long day of conference calls. I had 5 hours of conference calls I run for National Painting Group, and I did not want to run 5 hours of conference calls. And so what I did is I stopped myself and I said, okay, so I'm running this marketing conference call. What's the point of it? What am I out to accomplish on this marketing conference call? What am I out to accomplish on the sales conference call? And I just get that present for myself again. And that's why it's great to take the time now to really paint the picture, because then when you plan your week every week, you can read over it again and get yourself grounded again. If you're ever wake up in a day and you're just like not motivated, pull up your goals and remind yourself, why am I doing this? Because all the things that are worth having in life, they don't happen in a moment. They happen through a lot of small actions. And a lot of those small actions aren't exciting. A lot of people in the painting business, like I did door-to-door for a long time. I wasn't excited about door-to-door, but that was a necessary part of the company I have today. So you got to remember that it's all the little things. And so when you're out there doing something you don't want to do, like there's a part of your business or something you're not like super excited about, remind yourself why you're doing it. And that'll give you a whole new context for the work you're doing. Thanks for the comment, Jesse.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks.
Dario, what's amazing, man? Dario?
Hey, man.
Hi.
Hey. No, I mentioned before, it's starting to get clear, like to put all the goals and to put a plan of action and the budget for it. It's starting to get clear, and that's what I'm very excited about.
All right, great. And is there anything? I just write a couple things in the chat if you guys can. I just want to see: are you seeing a new opportunity to hit goals in a way you haven't before? Like all we're after here is if you are leaving this and you're not discovering for yourself, like, wow, I can do that. You're not seeing a bunch of new pathways and new opportunities to fulfill your goals. Like that was a problem for me. Like I'd want you to reach out and talk to me. Stephanie, would you mind just sharing with me on the mic about that? What you like about that or what you see that would provide you?
An overall view of everything. I was watching you and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that is like the most amazing budget sheet I've ever seen. So I'm very excited about that. I do budget sheets and it's like broken down by bi-weekly because that's how we're paid. And I've never really thought about how to make it to where I can see what I need to do to get what I want. Again, it's that whole limiting my expectations on myself. This is all we have, so this is all we can do. Right. So your budget sheet actually makes it to where this is what I want. So now I know what I need to get what I want.
Yeah, and then we got to deal with that. Then we got to deal with, okay, well, I'm $40,000 short. How am I going to make another 40 grand next year?
Right.
We go talk to our boss, or we go and try and negotiate a compensation plan, or we start a side gig, or we start working on ramping up our business, or we do whatever we do. But it makes it clear. It takes all the mystery out of it.
Right, and it makes it seem and feel manageable. Like you have more control. When things are obscure and they're just out there floating in the atmosphere of your brain or your thought, there's no way for you to grasp how to make it happen. This way, you have a very clear idea, and then you can start planning how to make it happen. It's not obscure anymore. It's not just floating around there as a thought.
Yeah, awesome. All right, great. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate the feedback. So I take it that the people who have shared kind of represent the other people here and if there's anything else, throw it in the chat or raise up a hand and I'll come back to you quick. But let's see here. So I think what we'll do is we'll set you guys up with the kind of the assignments for the next week and you can kind of get to work on all that. So the thing that's not written on here, so the assignment for the week is to complete the goal setting, ending with your recurring and one-time actions. and if you're willing to, send me the whole thing or send me just a couple areas or something like that, because I want to dig in with a couple people next week, at least like 3 or 4 or 5 of you, so we can cover different areas. But I would love to dig into your goals and help you make them better. I'm going to just look at them and I'm going to try to poke holes in them. I'm going to try to challenge you that you don't have a good enough plan still. That's going to be part of next week when we start the session off. And so the opportunity for you to send me your goals is to help me, have me help you kind of poke holes in it and have a much better plan, which is going to be critical to getting to your goals. So, if you guys can make that easy on me and send me some goals, that would be great. If not, I'll be hunting some of you guys down and requesting some goals, so we have some real examples to discuss and talk about. A lot of the areas in life are going to be consistent with everyone. Like almost everyone's going to have work or career. Almost everyone's going to have finances. Almost everyone's going to have health and family and some of these core things that we all care about in life. And we want to get those dialed in. And by the way, like I'm not perfect at this either. Okay. So like I feel like I'm far from having everything figured out. So there's room for me to improve too. And so don't look to me as if I have answers, or don't look at my goals as if those are like the best goals you can do. You want to discover for yourself what's really important to you, paint the picture, create your actions, and just discover it for yourself. I know that the system I'm rolling out is really effective and it works, but you'll need to find kind of your self-expression within this system. All right. So that's one thing to note. So for this week, if you haven't completed last week's assignment, I just invite you to do that. It'll make a difference to just go through, set aside an hour and go through the assignment from last week. But the only assignment for this week is to complete the goal setting. So the areas of life, the commitments, a really clear painted picture that totally inspires you, that you can taste and smell and see and feel, and boiling it down to the actions that would guarantee the goal. So if you could clone yourself and program yourself to follow this schedule perfectly, would you hit the goal? Now, we're going to have to deal in sessions 4 and 5, we're going to have to deal with the fact that you're a human being and you're not going to follow through. And what are we going to do in those instances? How are we going to adjust? How are we going to tweak? How are we going to learn from that? But if you could just program yourself to perfectly follow the plan, would you guarantee that that goal is going to get hit with that plan? That's your ultimate test for, do I have good goals set up? Do I have a chance at hitting these goals? Bonus assignments, which these are basically going to be assignments for this is basically going to be next week's assignments, is going to be to finish your goal setting, to make your ideal week, and to plan, to make your first financial budget. Those are just bonuses. If you want to get ahead of the game, right on. They'll both probably change a little bit once you do this, but honestly, this is not a one-time thing. This is a habit that you will want to do ongoingly. And over time, you'll get better at setting goals, better at making plans, and better at executing those plans and making your ideal schedule. When we plan our week every week based on our goals, then when you get done with the week, a bunch of shit went wrong. And at the end of the week, you're going to be planning your next week. You don't even have to think about it. You'll already make a better plan that next week from the failures you had this week. So for me, I tried working out at 5 a.m. I tried working out at the end of the day. I tried this, I tried that. And for me, what really works best for me is working out in like the middle of the day. I like to wake up. I like to crush work for 5 or 6 hours. Then I like to go to the gym. And then I have a little spurt of energy for another couple of hours, a few hours of whatever I'm working on. And then I like to golf in the evenings or the mornings. I've kind of figured out what schedule really works for me. And you're going to do the same thing. So the nature of this is over time, you'll get better and better. Like you want to think about everything we're covering in this course is like teaching you a new workout at the gym. Like you've never built these muscles before. You're not going to be an all-star at this stuff. And that's okay. But the more practice you get with it, the better you get with it, and the more powerful it will be. So just keep that in mind, that there's no goal we're trying to get to here. We want to create a process for us to follow in our life that if we just keep our head down and just follow the process, the natural result is our quality of life goes up, our stress goes down, our peace of mind goes up, our power in life goes up, our performance in work and life goes up. We just want to be focused on the process. And so just start to practice this stuff and don't put any pressure on yourself and just like have fun discovering it. So this is going to be the assignments for the next week. I'm going to send out, let's see. So I'm going to send you guys goal setting, recurring one-time actions. Okay, so that's it. So I'll send you the financial budget with instructions, the 4 rules of time management, and some examples of goals. Is there anything else that you guys want me to send out? Or anything else you feel like you need for the next week? You put it in the chat or raise a hand. Yes, Natalia.
Is there like a budget worksheet or budget prompt, at least something that can get us?
You're going to get this exact sheet.
Okay, gracias.
Yep. Okay, great. Good question. Any other questions? Will that include your goals template example? Yes, Jesse. I'm going to send you this. Okay. And again, this is just what works for me. And I haven't mastered this, but this is where I'm at now. And it's an evolution. But this is kind of what works for me. And the thing that's not very good on this sheet for me is the commitment and the paint the picture part. I've done that work in other documents and stuff like that. That's not in here. So just so you know, I said that was a really important piece. I'm very clear about the future I'm committed to. So that's why this part's kind of weak on these forms. But my actions and mapping of my actions is mostly what's on here. And it's pretty solid. So is that good, Jesse? Okay, thank you. Any other questions? So if you're not asking a question, this is where you should be. So just check yourself. Do you feel, I'd be happy to send another PowerPoint, Stephanie. Yeah, that'd be fine. Let me note that down. See, we write everything down, guys, so we don't forget shit. So if you don't have a question, then this is where you should be. You should feel confident, comfortable, and clear on what you need to do in the next week to create really powerful goals and actions to hit your goals. You feel really good about it. Is there anybody who doesn't feel really good about it? You could also send me a private message in the chat if you'd rather do that. But I want to make sure you guys all feel really good about what there is to do next week, because this is so important. How well you do your goals will literally create the limitation. So if you do this at 50%, the rest of the course is not, it's going to be your limitation. So make sure you take this part seriously. Plan the time, take time, do it thorough, dream, get yourself in a nice peaceful place, go sit outside somewhere, go to one of your favorite places, put on some good music, whatever it is that gets you going and you can just relax into this and just dwell in it and take your time. And then, like I said, I'll request that you guys send me some goals examples of yours where you're like, hey, Eric, here's an area of life, here's my commitment, and here are the actions. Got it. Thanks, Stephanie. Okay, cool. Well, I am going to get off of here, guys. We are going to end it there today. So you guys have a really amazing week. Use the Facebook group if you need to create a group or if you have questions about anything. And I'm really looking forward to what you guys start to put together. We're going to get, as we progress forward, we're going to get a lot more into like, okay, now that we have this rock solid plan, how are we going to execute it? And what are some of these operating principles that are really, really effective? So it's just going to be more and more exciting as long as you keep up and do the work. So do the work. Have a great week. You guys are awesome. And I'll be around for anything you all need. So we'll talk to you soon.